to the clown.
Oh,
It is in progress.
there we
It's in
go. Oh my God, it's almost professional here.
Yeah, this is nothing but professional. We're gonna
Look at Ian.
yeah.
Look at the sharpness. There is no level of professionalism that meets that kind of jazz hands. Look at my hair. Little motion
Guys,
that
this is a
we
wig.
just got.
It's a wig.
Oh, is it? Oh, hey. Oh, good. I was worried that I was the only one with a solar panel.
I got a 2-for-1 special. I will give you one. Your birthday, Christmas, you name it, I'm getting you one.
Sometimes getting a good deal is the only kind of best medicine. That's my segue.
That's your segue. Well, you know what? We can roll right into it, and that's exactly what we'll do. Is just start our second episode of Best Medicine. I got it right. Bryan, quick before we introduce you, our first episode, I introduced us as Bad Medicine. John Bon Jovi must have been in my head the whole time that I'm getting nervous to introduce us as Best Medicine.
Nervous.
Bad Medicine. So we're having fun with it. We're just human. We're gonna roll with it. We're just having a good time. And with that, my co-host, as always, Michael Adamswaite. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you for preparing what you've got in the background. That looks great. Launching soon. We'll talk about that shortly. And of course, Bryan Stevens from Frontline Forward. Thank you for joining us. This is the Best Medicine podcast, and we're here to celebrate you. We're here to talk about what you've got going on, and of course, just kind of get into more of what you're doing and evangelizing what you're doing. But before I get started, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and tell us about your story, about how you got started in first responder, in the first responding world, and just give us a little bit of a backstory.
Wow, we got how many hours do we have here?
Well, you got 30 minutes, so go.
You got 30 minutes. Okay, good. You gave the Cole's notes. No, it's my name is Bryan Stevens. It's my absolute pleasure to be here today. Good friend of mine, Ian Emery, came through to me through my brother Darren from their golfing expedition when Ian hit him over the head with a club, and all is good. But all is forgiven, and it's all good.
My first concussion I ever gave someone on the golf course. That was
fabulous. Fabulous. No, I was a paramedic for 32 years here in the province of Ontario. I started out working in the city of Mississauga as in categorization here in Ontario. I was a primary care medic to start, and then I became an advanced care paramedic. During my career, call it for what it is, I just had many opportunities to call in the air ambulance on a number of calls that that I was unfortunate to be part of, whichever way you want to take that. And it just started to become a fascination and a passion of mine. When I got in, super hard to get into the air ambulance program. It's no easy task now, but it was super hard back then. And I had the very fortunate aspect of getting to know some of the doctors at a Toronto Sunnybrook Hospital, our major trauma center here in the city of Toronto, that in St. Mike's and St. Kitts, St. Kitts for of Ontario. But what happened there is there was a private air ambulance program that traveled around the world. It's called Sky Service Lifeguard. It was their medevac division, and they were expanding into Toronto. And I got wind of this through the docs from Sunnybrook and a few of my friends, and I applied. At the time, I was just a brand new advanced care paramedic. They were hiring seasoned doctors, nurses, and advanced care paramedics to fly with this critical care transport team around the world. And I was super fortunate to be offered one of the positions. I took that, and for about a year and a half, on top of working as a land ACP, I flew around the world with just amazing medical brains and people, and definitely got the bug. And then in 1999, the air ambulance program, as we know it here in Ontario, doubled in size overnight. And I applied, and I was fortunate enough to be offered a position working out of the London, Ontario base. And I signed on. I was there for about 4 months, and then we were offered the training to move up to critical care. So here in the province of Ontario, excuse me, it's the highest level of transport medicine, pre-hospital transport medicine for paramedics. We have just an amazing program here in Ontario, as you do in BC and Alberta and Saskatchewan. I know all the people in those respective areas, and just I got to work with some of the best medical minds. All our training was done at Toronto Sunnybrook, London Health Science Centre, Hospital for Sick Children's, St. Michael's Hospital. So all the big name groups. And I was fortunate enough to be there for 22 years, flying around the province of Ontario, responding to calls that most people would find incredibly horrific. But that was just my jam. That's what I was into, and I was just proud to be part of that organization for as long as I did.
So here's a question: how close did you look like Tom Cruise in your outfits? Like, was that or did you have to work out a lot more so you were actually as trim and fit as that crazy actor?
That would take a bit.
So how many years were you in the air?
I was in the air program a total of 22 years, and
wow.
12 years on the land ambulance out of Mississauga.
And I guess one of the biggest questions I have, being in the air, to me, it would seem as though that you would be called in with the worst case scenarios. Those are one of the most, horrific or traumatic type of events that would be called into you, because obviously you need to get there faster. You need to get there immediately, and obviously immediate care. So first responding literally starts with someone in the air as well. Maybe share some of those stories, like the expectations. How quickly did you have to get out there?
Yeah, I mean, we were we're under pretty close scrutiny by our lead trauma doc at that time. That was the CEO of our program, and we could literally. So I worked out of London. I live in Kitchener, Ontario, which is about an hour's drive, an hour and 15 minutes. We could literally be sitting at base, just having conversations as a group or eating a meal. The tones go up. We had to be airborne in 6 minutes. We'd
Wow.
be airborne, and because we flew at about 3,000 feet at 300 kilometers an hour in a straight line with no traffic lights, no traffic, and no photo radar, anything like that, we could literally be airborne out of London and be here in Kitchener in about 16 minutes. And that's just a quick example. We're looked at as being a provincial resource. Now we're assigned to Southwestern Ontario. That's where the bulk and primary where we responded to calls. But many times as the days or nights, whatever it would call for, it would be busy. We'd find ourselves up in Northern Ontario or out even as far as Ottawa.
Well, and I think one of the one things that I enjoyed from one of our previous conversations was you felt like you had it all under control. You had it organized in your head that PTSD is not really a thing. It's something that you've heard of and it be a part of, but then all of a sudden, wham! You said it came out of nowhere for you. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, literally, it came out of nowhere. You have to be. Do you have to be a Type A personality? I think either that or a form of Type A to do our kind of job. And I was a forward thinker. Was trained to the highest level, and of medical care, pre-hospital medical care, and just wanted more and more and more each day. It was like a drug to me. I just could not get enough. And thank you to your statement earlier, Ian, but yeah, we responded to the most, the highest level of trauma, whether that be car accidents, farming accidents, water accidents, whatever you want to call that. And then the highest level of really intensive, involved medical care where, people had exhausted all the resources at the particular hospital where they were in Ontario. and needed to get to a tertiary care center. So we would fly in and do our thing, and hopefully, keep them alive and get them to a tertiary care center where, hopefully they survive. But yeah, literally, you had to be on all the time. And that's where I didn't realize what was happening to me in the background, is I was on all the time and never really shut it off. And it started affecting my family life, my personal life, what I was doing. I just wanted to be busy all the time, doing something, going somewhere, being involved, solving a problem with something. And it started creeping up on me.
Well, do you think that was avoidance?
Yeah.
You think that was avoidance?
Yeah, I think
so. You think PTSD had already set in, but
yeah,
you're at that point where you're just avoiding it at this part in your life. And it's interesting because there's a lot, and Michael and I've been talking about this a lot, that we don't want to be coming at this just from a first responder standpoint. We also want to be coming in and including the families that are involved, because they're exposed, and we're very cognizant of the families, the wives, the kids, everyone's involved.
Yeah, and that's what was happening with me. And I was, I became a very angry person. I was angry at the world. I was angry at.
But that's just being a man.
Well, that's it very well be.
Married with children.
Yeah. But I was just, I just found myself being, getting right pissed off at just the slightest of things that should not have that big of an effect on me. I found myself in positions of avoidance and isolation where, there would just be times, because on the job, I had this inherent capability that despite the noise that was going on, say we're at a big car accident situation where we got lots of sirens and motors and engines running, I was able to just shut all that noise off and just be able to concentrate on my, my duties to take care and hopefully keep people alive. What it basically came down to, Ian, is that that crept into my personal life, and I started doing the same thing personally with my family, with my girls, with my wife, mom and dads. I would just, whenever things got stressed to me when I wasn't at work, I just became very isolated. I became very quiet, and that's where I was noticing that more and more. I was noticing the agitation. And then it got down to the point where it was my wife that pointed out to me that, and I guess in an unconscious.
Recording in progress.
Technical difficulties all around.
Yeah, I started using alcohol an awful lot. I was using alcohol to forget, to help me sleep, because I was having some just terrible nightmares and just stuff that I would wake up screaming and yelling in the darkness of our room, and it really started to terrify my wife. And she was, and as you said, with the families, they live vicariously through us. So when we bring all this stuff home, when we're experiencing this, they're experiencing it too. Maybe not in the way that we are, but to some degree they are also. So I was using alcohol an awful lot. I'm not an alcoholic by any means. I don't crave it. I don't need it. I just used it to help me go to sleep and hopefully stay asleep. But then you wake up the next day with the same problems and a hangover. So
I hear that so often. There is so much more to be said about sleep aids, because I talk to a lot of veterans, I talk to a lot of RCMP, I talk to a lot of first responders in general that say that part of their PTSD journey is some of the hardest part is sleeping, because we can fall asleep at 11 o'clock, especially if I have a couple of drinks. But then 2 o'clock rolls around, 3 o'clock rolls around, and then that sleep cycle's broken. And that's where our healing really truly begins, is in that sleep cycle. So alcohol really has no place in that type of recovery. It has a place in time for everything, but obviously we got to make sure that as a crutch, as an aid to sleep, we got to move away from that. And there's lots of great products that are out there naturally, of course, pharmaceutically, but and that's what this community is for, is to bring that conversation about what are you using for your best medicine to get yourself into a better psychological mindset, your mental health, some sleep, lots to
Sleep's
discuss
incredibly
there.
important.
Absolutely. And
Incredibly important.
and Michael, I see we had some technical difficulties. I Michael got kicked out of the call, it looked like, there for a little bit.
I was booted because clearly whatever needed to be shared just didn't need me. I
No.
guess I was just I was sidelined for the moment. I forget exactly
Well, Michael
what it
speaks
is we were
very well,
talking
very
about.
elegantly, and all of a sudden it got really quiet, and I'm like, "Where's Michael? Where the hell
Yeah,
is
no,
he?"
that's not usual or typical for me to all of a sudden be silent. But I'll just take that as one of those reminders from the universe that, hey, sometimes you're not meant to be part of every single moment of every conversation, especially when technology is involved. I certainly didn't want to interrupt. I tried to join the call as quietly as possible. But yeah, I echo what you're saying, Bryan, entirely. When you think about the complications of running a 24-hour clock like everybody else. We all have a day to put in. We've all got work to do. And when you need to sleep and when you want to sleep and when you sort of decide that the most comfortable way to do that is to use, lean on something and have a crutch, I totally know where you're coming from. And you absolutely hit the nail on the head, Ian. We need to move away from that as quickly as possible. I think as a species, and not just as a North American culture or necessarily any particular culture, just humans. I think we need to get away from it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the hope of this whole community that we're trying to do within Best Medicine,
Yeah.
is throw out those ideas. What are you doing? What is your best medicine? And Bryan, maybe that's a perfect segue. Talk to us about Frontline Forward, because brilliant, my good man. Like, that is a brilliant. When I share that story with the people that I'm out in market with, they wish that they had it around the corner from them. I know you're currently in Kingston, Ontario. You have other plans, but why don't you share a little bit about what you've got going on, what you did for the best medicine?
Yeah, so I mean, I had to learn very quickly and through some pretty intense therapy for about 18 months, like intense therapy, through EMDR and cognitive behavioral talk therapy. I went through all of it and, quickly realized that it was up to me to make the change. Everything was out there for me to I just had to go and look for it, and then it was me ultimately that had to make the change. So I had been off the job for a better part of a year, going through the different treatment modalities, and then it just came down to the simple aspect that all the help that I was getting through insurance and all the other agencies, they all decided that it was time for me to go back to work. And I wasn't ready to go back to work. I knew that I wasn't. My therapist just said to me, he goes, "You can go back to work. You're doing much better. You have a lot stronger coping mechanisms, but the chances of you re-injuring yourself and getting back to such a bad place again is pretty high on the spectrum." So I consciously decided to retire through conversation with my wife and my girls. My girls are older, so we had adult conversations about this, and I decided to retire. I still had such a burning desire to continue to help the community. Now I wanted to turn that whole philosophy and continue to help the community, but to shift it towards helping my brothers and sisters that I stood beside for the years that I did. And that's where I come up with the idea for Frontline Forward. So Frontline Forward, located in Kitchener, Ontario. We're just about an hour from Toronto, an hour from London. And it's a multidisciplinary wellness center. Our doors are open to absolutely everybody, but we have a key focus on helping our first responders either become healthier or just stay healthier or find some alternatives or some additions to what they're doing. And
Amazing.
It's an all-encompassing it's a one-stop shop for your health and wellness, both physically and mentally. we house a big 6,000 square foot fitness center that's open 24 hours a day. I do not have staff, front desk staff there from about 8, 9 o'clock at night till 6:30 in the morning, because our place just looks after itself from the clientele that are there. And,
Amazing.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. So we have that. We have a big studio where we do yoga and Pilates and meditation. And Ian, we were talking, and Michael, much to your point there as well. What really helped me to get away from the alcohol side of things was meditation, and that's where I had learned it leading up to, and then when we opened up our place, and we have a the yoga studio and the meditation studio that we do, that is really put things into a big perspective for me. So
yeah, I have to tell you, Bryan, I couldn't agree with you more, especially given that I personally, in my earlier years, when I struggled with a lot of what I was going through, and I didn't have an outlet, I didn't have something like Frontline Forward. I would have loved to have been able to take advantage of a brick and mortar place, a studio, a clinic, whatever word. It's a healing center. I love that you put it that way, but I spent probably 18 months after a really, really low point as an actor, a really low point as a young father and a young husband. I just felt like I was failing left and right. And I tell you, I was at a cashier stand and I saw, like just general sort of call it a self-help, audio program. And I really was drawn to it. And it was just mantras for abundance. So I got to work really, really quickly. And before I knew it, I found myself sitting on a large, comfortable pillow, just breathing myself through what felt like the worst days of my life. And the more I did it, the easier the days got. And some of the circumstances didn't even change all that much.
No.
It's not like all of a sudden, oh, all the circumstances were different. It was no, you can breathe through this difficulty, regardless of how uncomfortable it is, you can breathe through it. And that was a huge, like mind-blowing realization for me. So I applaud that. That's a big cornerstone for the clinic and Frontline Forward, and for you personally. I applaud that. I've been there on the cushion, breathing.
Well, thank you. And much to that point, Michael, where you're saying, both my wife Angie and I have the words "Just Breathe" tattooed on our arms for that reason, because in a lot of aspects, that's what we got to do. Does the problem immediately go away? No, it does not. But you can get through just about anything.
Yes,
breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Now with meditation, you said you also had yoga, but you have some other components in the clinic as well. What are some of the other services that you guys provide?
Yeah, so over on our clinic side of our place, we've got just an outstanding physiotherapy clinic. We have chiropractic care, massage therapy, doing both deep tissue, soft tissue, and hot stone massage, India head massage. We have 2 trauma counselors that work full time out of our place. We have Chinese medical acupuncture.
Wow. Yeah.
We have an infrared sauna, and we also have the neuroptimal neurofeedback retrain your brain program. And I'll tell you, I've seen some of the most amazing changes in people's lives going through the neuroptimal program. And all this happens at our place every day, all at once. And it's an incredible place. I can't say enough about it. I'm super proud of what we have there. I come up with the idea, the vision for it, and I keep that to this day. But I have to applaud my wife, Angie, and Amanda DaCosta that manages our place, and just the people that we have at our place. We've got just an amazing group of people that all have a story that connects back to the first responder world. And I'll tell you, I hear it almost every day, which is encouraging and also rewarding to hear. But I hear people coming into our place and they say, you have no idea what this place means to me. It's not a gym. It's not. It's just
community.
It's a community.
Yeah, village.
Yeah.
And how many folks do you have coming?
We on our membership side, we've got about 300, 350 on the membership side, and that continues to grow every day.
Wow.
And then on our clinic side, it's just steady right now. All of our practitioners are steady at what they do. There's days that they're really busy. Our physiotherapy clinic sees about 70 to 100 people a week right now. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing place. We actually even run a seniors line dancing class on Wednesday mornings in our studio. I had a senior that just said,
That's
"What do you
great.
think?" And I go, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a curiosity.
Sure.
Is seniors line dancing as much fun as it has always sounded to me?
100%. It is. So
Yeah, I thought so. I thought so
much
because
fun.
everyone's so grown up. They're like, I'm decades beyond caring what people think. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I want to be in a place where I can enjoy myself safely and in a fun place and just do something fun. Why the hell not? Young people, we got a problem. We're too conscious. We got way too much. We got way too much dog in the fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I hope my hair's okay. I don't care about that anymore.
Somebody's gonna TikTok this, and I'm done.
Yeah, this is like whatever. I'm one comment away from shaving my head. So shave your head. The comments out there, and I love seniors line dancing, not just as an idea, but it's something I'm looking forward to. I got some boots in the closet.
There you go. Get them out. Get them out.
So tell me, Bryan, what are the plans, next steps for Frontline Forward? Are you planning on taking this on the road, franchising this out, getting it into other municipalities across Canada?
That's a great question. I want to know that.
Yeah. Well, and thanks for asking. I can't even tell you the number of people. Like, so we have, friends of our members that are in town for a weekend or for a week, and they always say, "Oh, do you mind if I bring my brother over, my mom, my dad, my aunt, whatever?" And they're like, "Absolutely." So they come over. Every single one of them, representatives from fire, police, paramedic agencies, nursing, all across this great country we call Canada, have come to me and they said, "Please come and set one up in our city."
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
it's always been in the little spidey senses tingling in the back of my head since we got going. And I would love to see it come to that fruition, that we reach out to everybody and anybody. And a place like ours is needed in the smallest of little towns, right up to the big cities. And it's just such a it's just like a feel good place, if I want to put it that way. It's a place where people that work in high stress environments can come, and they know that they can just be them. They can just be themselves. The company motto that I put together was, "Come to our place and feel healthy, feel safe, and feel strong." And
Brilliant.
I just explained to people,
well done.
yeah, come and feel healthy from the aspects of looking after yourself, mind, body, and soul. Feel healthy and the feel strong aspect of it. Yes, it's from a physical aspect, but it's also, get mentally stronger, learn how to develop strong coping and management skills. And the biggest one is just come and feel safe, where they know that they can come to our place as first responders, and they're not going to have to deal with some of the tragedies of the world that are out there, and just the busyness of some of the bigger box gyms that are around.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The big box gyms, they're established. Everybody knows the big box. We got Trevor Linden out here in BC, so Club 16 is everywhere, and that's great. They're actually looking at participating with our event coming up in the fall for Laughter is the Best Medicine, which, by the way, Michael, Bryan thought that was a brilliant idea. Would love to have this in Kingston for 2025. So we're going to keep those conversations going. I think it's
absolutely
a great idea that we certainly get this on the road. But going back to what Bryan was saying about the big box gyms, this is needed because PTSD is one of those things that we know that everybody is talking about, but there isn't really a platform to talk about it unless you are in Frontline Forward. Everyone's going to be talking about it. Everyone's going to be sharing their story. What I'm loving is that this podcast and what we're doing with Laughter is the Best Medicine is we're also expanding that reach. We're giving everyone that opportunity to share their testimonial. And Bryan, anybody that you know that's in your group and in network that want to come on to this podcast and share their story, we want them. We want to have those conversations with them. But more importantly, what I like about it is that, you know, once upon a time after the war, the legions popped up everywhere. Those were phenomenal support system. And those legions, what are they synonymous for, or what they're related for, or what am I trying to say? What are they attached to? Alcohol. And that is
a lot of alcohol culture in the Legion culture.
In the Legion piece. So if we can replace that out, what's that? Sorry?
I was just saying, because at the time, the culture of war and the culture of the military and the culture of the Navy in particular, there was alcohol involved.
Yeah,
and it was such a huge cornerstone. So if we can replace the alcohol with comedy and with the health and wellness mentality and awareness, then I think we can also make a cool T-shirt, Dr. Feel Good. We send it over to Bryan, and he can just maintain Frontline Forward as we hope to grow not only ourselves but the Frontline Forward community as well. You get a Dr. Feel Good T-shirt.
Just grow it. Just give those other opportunities, and what, not be afraid to talk. What did Andy, our last guest, was talking about? Oh no, they're gonna go see Dr. Bonkers.
Dr. Bonkers.
Dr. Bonkers is a real character in the first responders, veterans, and the Canadian community, where it was like, I don't really want to talk about it. We want to remove that stigma. We want to have a lot of fun with it. We want to make sure that everyone knows it's okay, that laughing is okay. We can make this a different treatment just by talking, laughing, working out, meditation. These are all great conversation points.
And what, I say to people, okay, you hear the phrase out there, it's become pretty synonymous with everybody right now. It's okay to not be okay. And I appreciate that, and I accept it. I just want to go a little bit further with it and just go, it's okay to not be okay, but what are you doing about it? That's what I want to attach to it. And there's just, we come from a place of education, to just let people know what's available around you, what you can be doing. And exactly to your point about the Legions, they serve a purpose, and they have served a purpose forever and a day. But I just think there's some healthier alternatives to that, rather than alcohol. There's many other healthier and better solutions for that. But I still commend the Legions for what they do and what they're
absolutely.
I'm there with them 100%.
Yep. No, couldn't agree more. And I like what you're saying. What are you doing about it? Or we'll go a little bit further. What's your best medicine? Where do you want to go with that? And that's what this will help evangelize, help bring people in and share what they're doing. Like Michael are talking about, why don't we just go on the road and talk to people, just randomly strangers, say, hey man, what are you currently doing for your best medicine? What is it that you're focusing on to make sure that you're feeling good, feeling right, and feeling yourself? And that's kind of be some of what we want to do with this podcast, is get out there, talk to people, and just kind of direct them. And it's our hope your story today, triggers something for someone, lets them know that, what, not only do I want a gym like that in my community, I've got a group of friends that I can help support get that gym into this community. And we would like to create that village, that support system and community. So here's to hoping that anybody that's listening to this, that we can certainly guide them in your direction and make sure that we can bring this out west.
Absolutely.
I know Ontario has some great facilities, but BC can certainly use some. Alberta can use some. My brother is in Manitoba, RCMP. He definitely would love to introduce that kind of concept to his guys as well.
Because what, the biggest thing with the point I'd like to get across with PTSD is, I think that what they did, the biggest mistake that they made with this is they categorized it as a mental health illness or injury. And, I've talked to so many psychologists, psychiatrists, both from a personal aspect when I was going through, but having meetings with people like this now on a regular basis. And it was pointed out to me, and it makes so much sense that it's a dissociative problem, not a mental health problem. And it's dissociative because we do the jobs that we do, and you've got to disassociate your feelings and emotions because you've got a job to do. So yeah, and you got to make sure that you're on that day to help that person, to help the community. The problem with it is some of us get into a problem where we're disassociative so much that we don't know how to reassociate our feelings and our thoughts back into presumably everyday normal life, whatever that is. I don't know what a normal life is, but I think that's where it lies, and I think that's where we get it across. And where this thing is so difficult also is PTSD affects everybody in a different way. What triggers you doesn't trigger me. We might do the exact same job, but what triggers me doesn't you or affect, and vice versa. And also,
well, and I mean, forgive me for interjecting. I feel compelled to mention even the word trigger for some people, especially coming from perhaps, firearms violence or gun violence, or even being threatened with a firearm. The word itself, trigger, can be triggering. And I mean, not to play the word challenger, but in and of itself, I've heard now certain requests out there in the health and wellness world to come up with the better term. Like it
because
could
you're
be,
triggering my trigger.
Exactly, and without making too much light of it, it really is about saying that's like, maybe that's a hot button for me, or that's very close to home for me, or that resonates very personally and it's kind of uncomfortable, like whatever that is. I mean, we have to take into account every form of trauma, and if we realize that a certain word maybe has a double meaning, but in and of itself, there's no way to manage how that word is interpreted by somebody else. So it's a totally different set of challenges on top of a set of challenges, because working with people means you're working with that entire box of lenses: the trauma lens, the experience lens, the history lens, the gender lens, the identity lens, all the different parts that make up a person. And to have conversations with people, and to innocently use a word like trigger word without knowing that a person in the collective may have been involved in some sort of gun violence like that, can be difficult to process in the moment. And I hope I wasn't out of line.
No, I think that's a great point, and much to what I was going to say is that the process of healing, the process of coping, managing, just getting better, both physically and mentally, everybody's got to experience that for themselves. And that's why our place, it's a multidisciplinary center. So what works for you, maybe one thing works for you and another doesn't work for you at all, and that's perfectly fine. You just got to find that happy medium there, and having open conversations like that. Michael, kudos to you. I've never heard somebody explain it to me that way. I think it's absolutely awesome that you come up with.
Thank you. I'm glad that was a welcome exchange, because I
it's
find
not just another pretty face.
Yes.
Well,
he's got talent.
It is something to be said, like, how can we have better conversations in the days that we find ourselves in, but also how can we have conversations that don't light us up? Right? Like, how can we have conversations that don't that don't throw us into the red, which is a term that I've sort of unconsciously, I guess, used more in the last several months, if not a little bit longer. Like, hey, we don't need to go into the red. And yes, it's a financial term, but it's also, if you've ever seen a cartoon, then you know what that means, right? And it is about making a safe space where, yes, words and actions and practices can be challenged. And I'm not in any way taking credit. Like I said, I heard that from someone else, and it's just something I thought I'd put into practice, and growing
works well. Yeah,
it's a great statement, and I thank you for bringing that forward. And it's, like we run peer support group and wellness groups at our place. And I hope you don't mind, but I'm absolutely going to introduce that at the next one from that aspect, and just see if that is a word that, people find to be,
Well, share this episode out. Feel free to use this with your
absolutely any wisdom that is bound to the earthbound human. It's free. Everything goes around, and if you've never heard something before and you like it and you understand the reason, and I mean, I'm using the royal you, not you specifically, Bryan. If a person enjoys what they hear, and if it becomes part of their little story, then they weave that in to their, like, this is my line of life. And at this point, I learned this. And I thought, hey, that feels good to know. Maybe other people might feel good to know it. And even if I never thought about it before, and even if I go back and I kind of go, oh, I've used that word a lot. I hope I didn't make anybody feel bad. That's not the mechanism that I'm trying to, set out there or employ. It's not about going back and being hard on yourself, which I, as a person with ADHD and some other alphabets, I am working harder not to be hard on myself. So it's word accountability for the individual. If we can be impeccable with our words, with a certain degree of error and wiggle room, then hey, I think we can all learn something. So everything's free. Send it around, share it around.
Share it around.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, I will certainly share this around with our friends and family and network, making sure that everyone knows about Frontline Forward and what you're doing. We want to evangelize you as much as possible because we think that what you're doing is phenomenal. And I know for a fact, with the stories that Michael and I have already shared with some of our pre-production meetings that we've had, people are amazed. They're like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Yeah. So there's a lot of positivity with the work that you're doing. We want to continue supporting you. We would love to have you back on anytime. Yes, feel free. If just share some updates with what you've got going on, and of course get us over to Kitchener-Waterloo for 2025 so we can do Laughter is the Best Medicine over in your neck of the woods.
Awesome. It was my absolute pleasure to be here today. Love what you guys are doing. Here to support you in every way, shape, and form. And I will most certainly put it up on all our social media that Frontline Forward has, and all our advertising TVs around our facility about what you guys are doing. And
thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you in 2025 here. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll go from there.
I love it. I love it. Michael, thank you so much for joining us again today. Bryan, phenomenal. And everyone, we'll be talking to you real soon. Take care.
Hey, boys.
Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Really, really fun, ultimately to have a conversation like this and to be able to talk to someone who has, with their own past, with their own lens, with their own wisdom and experience, made the decision to step forward and say, I don't have the right clinic or the right doctor or the right workout gym, or, I mean, for that, argument, you could also say my mechanic isn't doing it for me. If we want to go with that analogy, if the tools are there, but the work's not being done, then it's a storage bay. It's not a garage. It's not like we're doing the actual work. It's like, yep, there's the tool, there's the ab machine, there's the treadmill, and here I am standing in the middle. I'm going to drink a coffee and, bad mouth, like whatever system I choose randomly, right? Like, it is really amazing.
He created something out of nothing that
really, exactly.
And I love the relationship between, or the parallel between, the Legion then versus Frontline Forward today. That's not a bad idea.
Legion should have been all along, if you think about it, because as much as, and I want to acknowledge the difficulty of the era and the difficulty of the time, the difficulty of it is hell to go to war. I've never been, I won't pretend to be a serving member of the military or a retired member of the military. I've played one on TV. That's about as close as it gets for me. I salute them top to bottom for everything they do. But in that particular era and sort of, time period, coming home was not like, I want to go back to work right away, or I want to go back to the gym or anything like that. It was sort of a solemn time. Even if you came home from the winning side, you needed to rest and adjust and take care. But there were all these other pressures to just get back to work like it was no big thing. So if you could get away from people who didn't understand, who didn't have that lens of war and suffering and difficulty, if you could get away from them and sit in a quiet room, listen to some music, maybe have a, like a drink, or a smoke with the fellas, or whatever it is, I'm sure that that was much more appealing than going to doctor after doctor after doctor, or sitting for hours and talking to family to try and clear the air.
Well, you didn't do that. You didn't talk to family. You went to a Legion.
Exactly. You went to the Legion.
You didn't even really talk. You just shared your drink, your stories, your hangout. First form of therapy.
And it really was, I think, an extension of the sitting around the fire grunting with, sticks in our hands, telling about the difficulty of the day, and albeit a very Cro-Magnon kind of caveman way. We've evolved now to a point where we can acknowledge more about our brains and about our bodies and about our, like the immortal soul. Like, there's something in there. It's not just a battery. There is something special about every single one of us, and to know that some of them were, due to necessity, taken to the front line of war, or the front line of service, or the front line of medical emergencies, like the things people see, like, that's why that saying exists. You can't unsee that.
No,
and
good point.
It's but you also can't drink it away. You can't smoke it away, you can't run it away, you can't work it away, you can't dream it away, wish it away, or forget it away. But you can talk about it, and the feelings will eventually weigh less, and it won't sit the way it used to. And I think a lot of people would be tremendously, I think, benefited by a Frontline Forward location in their city, in their neighborhood, so they can go get to work at a real shop with real tools and real people who are working on their own, vessel.
Totally want to make that happen. Totally want to make that. We've already engaged some of the folks at our last episode there with Andrew McLeod, Staff Sergeant Andrew McLeod. He had contacted me and said, "Is there a Frontline Forward in Calgary?" I put him in touch with Bryan, and they were able to put some remote pieces in place, but nothing would be better than having it in the community, having easy access to it. As he said, it's an all day, all night, 360 24/7 facility. You just go in when you need it, and we will take care of you as much as you take care of us. And that's
well, I say we raise $500 million, and we try and create a network, or an interconnected web, if you will, of Frontline Forwards that create more of a network for people. Because I know some people listening to this might be thinking the same thing as me, because of course, growing up in this country, I heard it so many times in so many different ways. We're so lucky to have universal health care. We're so lucky to have the system that allows us to access pharmaceuticals and doctors and clinics and all these other things. And that's all wonderful. But I don't feel like the system has changed enough or fast enough to accommodate some of the traumas that literally just weren't a thing. Like, there are generations of people who never had motor vehicle trauma because there weren't motor vehicles. There are people who never had traumas with, like, hey, working up in super high places, because we didn't have tall buildings then, right? I mean, I know I'm not necessarily following the thought super well, but
no, but even someone was sharing with me the other day, a dog has a PTSD, or a dog owner got attacked by their dog, and now they're walking around with PTSD every time they see a dog. I know I'm stretching it a little bit, but there are so many stories of people that have been traumatized, but really don't have a place to go to deal with the trauma. And meditation on that call, brilliant. Thank you very much, Bryan. What a great suggestion.
I really cannot tell you, like, I think there were times where I felt like I was getting close to the bad place. like I said, I was just in not a great spot, and meditating really saved me. And it gave me an opportunity to feel like there was more coming tomorrow, as long as I remembered that this is something that I was doing for myself.
Mm.
And if I'm doing it for myself and I can do it again tomorrow, that's reason enough.
Mm-hmm.
Just for me, because everything else, eventually, if you look at it through the right lens, or if you dissect it long enough, depending on the state of your mind, you can come up with and or excuse away anything. But if you've got something to do tomorrow that's good for you and it feels good, then I feel like that's the first step to being there. It's one more 24, one more
24.
period of time,
one day at a
just
time. One day
at a time. Yeah,
no,
and
sir.
I love Frontline Forward. I feel like we need to have Bryan back on the regular. I'm really excited that we also took this opportunity to do a little after
chat.
After the cut.
Yeah, after the cut.
After the cut.
And we've got great folks coming down the pipe. You and I had a great meeting with Black Press Media. The group has put forward one particular individual that will share a little bit here. I think they will be our next guest with what she's experienced. So we'll get Jessica on here very soon.
Tremendous.
And they, everybody that we're talking to is, we want to be a part of this. We want to get this growing because there is a massive gap. There are support systems. Yes, there is. But there isn't a platform like this where people can tune in into a channel, listen to what other people are doing, listen to how they're dealing with it, and looking at what they can do better or implement into their life. And this is what's going to be a phenomenal growth with what we're doing. So I
couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it better. And I may have in fact said it worse if I tried. So kudos to you. Kudos to us. I'm really excited to be sharing this with everybody. I think final thoughts. We all need just a little bit more, but we need to check ourselves when it comes to deciding what more is best for us or just best for the moment. And if you're thinking about all those wonderful short-term highs that allow us to get through the day, then that really shortchanges our experience. And unless I'm wrong, cosmically, we kind of get this one shot to go around with all of our friends and family and people that we love. So let's try just a little harder, aim for that best day ever, and tell your friend I love you. I love you, Ian.
Love you too, buddy. You have a wonderful afternoon, and let's keep this ball rolling, everybody.
Yes, sir. All day.
Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
And that's that. Perfect. We'll keep this going. Oh, he hung up.